Have you ever felt like you're moving in one direction, but life is really pulling you in another direction and maybe even pushing you into something that feels very uncomfortable, and it creates a disruption in your peace? And we do know that if we surrender, we find peace, right? So today I'm going to share with you 3 helpful steps that can help you let go so you can stop resisting and start aligning with what's truly meant for you. In case we haven't met, my name is Dr. Harmony, and on this channel, I will help you become your best self so you can live your best life. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when all my videos and content come live. I have found surrendering at some of the hardest times in my life, such as letting go of relationships, having to face money issues, having to let go of expectations and stories, and even alignment with my purpose and making a shift into the next level of myself. Each time that we go and let go of these things, we go through a layer of letting go. We go through another layer of surrender through that process. But each time I have found that I became more aligned with who I'm becoming or who I am. And so the energy that we go through in this creates not only the resistance, because I always say with what you persist will resist, but it is the energy that's going through that becomes really a transformational mentor in our lives, that these things are showing up to teach us firsthand on what it is we need to see, that we need to let go of, that we need to make shifts in our energy, our perception, and allow ourselves to look at something different, look at something new, see greater possibilities. And the more we just surrender into that and allow that, the faster we can go through the process. So before I talk to you about 3 steps of letting go, I want to share with you just briefly a little bit of why this topic is coming up for me to share. Because obviously when I go through things, I show up and I experience things, and then I know, well, the collective must be experiencing this, and that's how I show up and also help myself heal. On the flip side of that, I have to tell you, sometimes being that teacher means that I show up in experiences that sometimes makes me question in that direction. Do I need to put my own mask on first? Do I need to keep teaching things? Then if I didn't put myself out there, would I actually be having to go through some of the things that I go through? Well, Eckhart Tolle talks about surrender as a simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. And so as I go through this next level, next version of myself, what is really feeling like I'm surrendering into is definitely another layer of letting go of control from a standpoint of what I think things should look like or how I think I should navigate in certain ways. But on the flip side of that, that calls for a lot of trust, blind faith, walking in the dark, so to speak, allowing things to navigate in a way that you can't see. And as we go through these shifts and these quantum shifts, it requires a lot of deep work inside of the surrender and the letting go. And what I've experienced in the last week, since I put out last week's video, which, by the way, I'll put a link above or below. So I talk a lot in that video about the idea and the concept that separation is an illusion, and how if we see ourselves on the other side of the obstacles, then basically the obstacle is only illusion blocking us from seeing true direction, true ability to navigate in certain ways based on our perception and our projection. And so it's interesting enough in that this last week, after I made that video, I started having an issue in my eye. But I started having the issue in my eye when I started being put to the test of facing a fear that I had not fully faced and looking at something that was technically a loss in my life last year. And it'd been on the back burner. And whenever I looked at it, there were some things about it that brought up a lot of anger. And I don't really even know what it's like to be angry, but it brought up a lot of anger in me. And collectively, I've been watching and hearing and seeing and experience with other people that there's a lot of anger that came with this last new moon, or a lot of this really dark femme energy, like dark energy of coming up. And when I say dark, I don't mean technically bad. I mean, it's the suppressed parts of ourselves that we have not allowed to come into full expression or bring light to. that's kind of like one of the things that came up with the situation that I needed to go back and look at, that I just had on the back burner. But what happened when I looked at it was, what brought up the anger was, I looked at the loss of it, and I looked at it through my lens of the past. Now, within basically minutes-ish after that, and that anger came up and the surge of energy went through me, I started having an issue with my eye. And in my eye, I started getting these flashes, and I also started seeing in that a floater. And so through the process of that, then that brought up a lot of fear. And that brought up some things that, okay, what am I not seeing here, except for I'm seeing something that's an illusion. And I'm talking about, seeing things as an illusion. And I'm literally seeing this thing that's an illusion. And when that comes up, then it like made me look at like, okay, well, what is it that I've done? And technically I haven't done anything, but it brings up these things of what are we doing? And sometimes we look at that from a standpoint of, we try to fix things, or we try to understand things in a way that we think we're responsible, or that sometimes it's even self-sabotage as we try to, say, move in a direction, in this case, towards divine will, really, versus the will that we might think we need to move into, which is that split that I'm talking about at the fork there, of what comes down to, and this is something I've been really processing in myself, is what is it is my will, what part of this is my direction, and what part of it is God's will, and God pulling me in another direction. And in that, I can see the sense of surrender, and going through these things, it's really creating this sense of having to surrender and knowing that not being in control of certain things. And so I want to share with you today the 3 things that I've been processing this week, and also kind of just as a side note, some of the videos going forward may not be edited like I normally would edit, because I have to really exercise caution with my eye right now. I'm under observation. I have this eye doctor I'm seeing here in Panama City, which has been great. I've saw him twice in the last week, less than a week, and I go back at the end of this month, and everything looks really good. That basically what's happening with the PVD is it basically displaces your eyeball. It pulls on the retina, which is the flashing, and the floaters from the gel in your eye just kind of like collapsing a little bit. And so basically the eye and the brain and everything has to, and the vision has to realign to see things differently from a new perspective. And again, you can't make this up. So check out that video I did last week for sure. So the first point I want to talk about letting go, so you can come into this alignment or this shift or movement into more of what is with God's will, and not so much the ego that sometimes has the doubts and the limitations and the fears and gives us the illusions that I was talking about from the other video. But it is accepting what is, where we are. And to know that the important thing is to know that, if you can't fix it, if it's out of your control, all you can really do is accept what's happening and stay in the presence of, what is this teaching me? Why is it in my life? What can I learn from this? What is it that I can do, that I can flow into it? I can become one with it, rather than fighting the reality of what is. And this works really good with the whole twin flame concept too, because so many people have trouble letting go of their twin flame, which I have a lot of videos on. So I'm not going to retract all of that, but I'll make sure you have a playlist above and below so you can go into more information about letting go of your twin flame. But in this case, I want to focus it more on you, because at the end of the day, the twin flame is only reflecting in you what you need to let go of, and you need to come into a sense of accepting whatever it is that's going on in your life, because the more you fight it, the more it's going to persist. And at the end of the day too, resistance in all of this is what creates the suffering. And so if you can basically let go of your resistance to what is in your reality, and then go back to the last week's video when I talked about what's in your reality is technically just an illusion, and you can shift and change your perspective, then you can begin to go with it, and you can stop going against it. And a lot of where that comes from is that we just need to acknowledge what is. And what we haven't done is acknowledge what is and where we are without judgment. See, that's the key, without judgment. And like in my scenario, it was kind of like I was using judgment against the scenario and taking responsibility and blame for it, what had happened, and then kind of sabotaging myself. And so what, I had one thing I will say is it felt really good to know that going through that process allowed me to bring up and to trigger in me an anger that I don't even normally feel, because I think whatever it is with what happened was suppressed in me and suppressed into my body. And so many people have been really ill lately around different scenarios I've seen, having physical ailments, physical body things. And I think it's because we're in this physical realm. And in this physical realm, like, we're bringing in and actualizing a lot of the things that we've embodied. And now that it's coming through us, it's manifesting into the body different things that we have suppressed in the past. And we're having to wake those things up and bring those things to light so we can heal the body as well. So let me know in the comments if you've been experiencing anything physical in your reality, if things are going on that's making you being pulled in a direction you don't technically want to go in, but you're feeling like you're needing to surrender into, and you're kind of discerning between your direction and, the universe's direction. And if you've used different things in different times and moments that's helped you stop fighting what's happening and go with it and finding peace instead, let us know, so everybody, even watching this video, can hear from other people to know that they're not alone. And also, I want to know I'm not alone in this, because this has been a very intense, impactful week. So the second tip I want to talk about in surrender is letting go of control. Now, I kind of touched on this, but the reason I want to bring it up specifically is because that tends to be like something that is underneath a lot of not being able to surrender, is the control of the ego and the doubt. We hang on and we grip and we resist because we have old stories that keep running. We have these expectations that we've placed on things, or a certain way we think something should unfold or present itself in a way that if it's not that way, then something must be wrong. I'll tell you in my situation, and that's been coming up, and that is as I kind of took some time off and been working on myself, and then coming back into the work that I'm doing as this new version of me, and the things I'm doing aren't actually aligning with the version of me that I know I am inside. What that tends to do is bring up that another layer of not feeling good enough because things aren't good enough and don't align with what I perceive to be and know what would be my best. And one of the things that's really been coming up for me with that is because I've been creating an online course that I've been working on for 10 years that has to do with helping people plan, write, and publish their book. And I've got the first part of it ready to launch in order to help people learn how to share their story, write their book, and plan it out and organize the framework in it so it doesn't take so long like it did me. It took me 10 years to figure out how to do these things. And then it took me a lot of time to implement things, not just with myself and my own books, but also teaching other people and clients, and then to package that up, and then to produce it, and then to do all the back end details of it, and be so close to being done and ready to release it. And then now being in a place that I have to really monitor my eye and, very minimal work on the computer, piece myself on it. It really teaches you a lot of patience in this process. And I think another piece of this is about us learning to have in this letting go of control, instead of putting so much pressure on ourselves or having all these expectations or these stories or all the things that's keeping us stuck. We need to have more grace with ourselves. We need to know that what's meant for us will come for us with ease and grace, and we need to also have compassion and be gentle. We've been very hard on ourselves, which in the physical aspect of the physical body going through this, we've been very hard on ourselves as a collective and as a whole. And this is an opportunity for you to shift out of that and let go. Really just step into this version of you that doesn't have to control it all. It's exhausting. So I encourage you to come alongside me and let's lay this down and let's just surrender. And, I was talking to a friend the other day about another friend of mine, how I listened to some things she had went through. And I'm like, how did you get through all of that? And she got up She walked over to a Kleenex box and she pulled out a Kleenex and she started waving it. And she was like, I surrendered because I figured out that my way was no longer working. And I knew that, okay, God, take the wheel. And so if you've ever had a story inside of you or wanted to write a book, I have an online course now that's just launching, and check out the link below because it can really help you create the framework that you need to write your book faster. And especially when it comes to the soul aligned stories and information that people want to share with other people and their expertise or in their mission or in their soul purpose, or just to inspire people to know that your story matters and that your story can have an impact on people, and that can really help other people. And that's all how I've always saw this, is the ripple effect. I'm one person and I show up and help people, but it's kind of like, that saying, give a man a fish and he eats for a day, but teach a man to fish, he can eat for a lifetime. So that's my goal with this program. And there is a huge discount on it right now. And it's got a limited time, even extra bonus discount for 3 extra days. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, check the link below and you will be able to learn more about it. So the third topic I want to talk about here is flow with life. We've talked about in basically the first step, accepting what is, and then moving into letting go of control. And if we can accept what's here, we can let go of control. That gives us the opportunity to begin to flow with what's going on in life, instead of coming up with this resistance that's creating this inner battle, this inner fight that creates and pulls us out of alignment with what truly is in our life. A piece of what's really coming along with that is just trusting that life is actually guiding you, that the universe is guiding you. And for me, I have to tell you, I use universe a lot because I understand the energetic aspects of the universe, and that is a polarity, and that is the pull and the magnetism of the cosmic. But on the flip side of that, as I've went more into this surrender, more into this acceptance, and more into this allowing and getting in the flow of life, I feel like I need to not just trust myself in this any longer, because that can create a split when you think you've trusted yourself. And I went through this when I had COVID. I thought I trusted everything because I could trust myself. But when I was trying to go left and the universe, God was wanting me to go left based on the divine will of it, then I was confused because that left me not sure of trusting myself, because I knew myself was this direction, but that's not necessarily the direction. Or even if it is, there's this other piece that gets you there, that you're being pulled in one direction to go through or to collect something in yourself or to experience something before you get there, or it's something better than what you could have, chose for yourself. And so know that as you go through this process, that you're learning to not just trust yourself, you're learning to trust a higher power, really. And whatever you call that higher power. And what I was about to say is, for me, that higher power is needed to be more of a relationship. I've needed to feel more of the connection. And so along my way, even in my scripting, journaling, as I would write, Dear Universe, thank you every morning. And I would write down the scriptings of things of what I felt and the gratitude I had and the things I saw myself in alignment with, which all came true in a 6-month time. On the flip side of that, as I made a deeper connection, I started feeling more of this yoking with God, more of this connection of the alignment of the mind, body, heart, soul, and life. And that is that yoking. And I needed more of a real relationship. And so naturally, I just started to use the word I'm connected to God and wasn't even trying to do that. Now, everybody has their own preferences here. I'm not here to say anything, on this biblical side, or, this is not anything for debate. This is my own personal journey. And everybody is a different place in this journey. But I'm just sharing with you my journey that's helped me to come into this sense of a relationship. So leave me a comment below and let me know the one thing you're ready to surrender today. And, placing that there adds a lot of power to the action that it takes. And that way you're really physically taking a physical action to let something go. And if you want to dive deeper into the idea of coming into this alignment of yourself on every level, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and in your reality, make sure to get my free guide to get aligned in 5 steps, and the link is below. And I will see you next week, and may you have a very blessed day. And I will be here provided I can continue to show up, but I will have to be graceful with my eye.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is